Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. We're starting one day late this week for our recording, but it won't really matter to audio-only listeners, so lots of questions again. Try and dig right into it.
Yeah, my wife asked me an hour before this podcast, well, can you get somebody else to fill in for you? I'm like, I could have if you had said that yesterday.
With some warning.
Yeah, with some warning. And then an hour before the podcast is supposed to start. Yeah, it's the end of the school year, and it's kind of crazy around here because of that. So trying to get everything done. And it was Mother's Day.
It was
Mother's Day
this
last weekend. So happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. And it's my wife's birthday next weekend.
Gotcha.
So... yeah.
Happy birthday to Nell.
Yeah. Happy birthday. A little mad at her because I had a big plan for what I was going to do. I was going to take the boys down to the outlet store and go to the outlet mall and go get her Coach purse. She hasn't had a Coach purse in forever, since maybe before my first son was born, and she really likes them. But we haven't really been able to afford them. But I figure we could splurge. It's been 13, 15 years, something like that. But she went out and bought herself one 3 weeks ago. She's like, I bought this for my birthday. I'm like, all right then.
Didn't give me a chance to guess. I was working out the narrative, and I was like, I think I know where this is going, but I didn't get a chance to guess.
Yeah. Did see Guardians of the Galaxy this weekend.
Very good. Volume 2.
Did you see it?
I saw it on opening night. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. What'd you think?
Oh, liked it, of course. Very enjoyable, funny, lots of good action.
Did you like it better than the first one, or not as much as the first one?
I mean, the first one had the whole novelty to it.
I understand that.
You didn't know what to expect, so it was more of a surprise. So in that way, I think the first one had more of an impact on me, which I think a lot of people felt, because the second one, similar tone in that. So it's like, since you saw the first one, you kind of know what to expect, so it doesn't have quite the novelty to it, but it's a very good movie. Enjoyable.
Yes. My mom for Mother's Day wanted us to all go to the movies with her to go see that. So she took everybody to the movies for Mother's Day. I was like, yeah, that's nice. It was good. It was fun. I really appreciate that they really didn't give much away in the previews.
Yeah,
I'm so
that's true.
sick of everybody giving, Batman v Superman Dawn of Stupid. That movie, you knew everything that was going to happen before you saw it. It was like, hey, the big reveal is there's Doomsday. You're like, oh,
yeah, that was weird how they did that on that.
It's just so bad. But it was really great how James Gunn really doesn't plays it tight to the vest. Really did appreciate that. A lot of funny moments. Yeah. My mom liked it better than the first one. Okay. I felt more like you did, Rob. I felt like it was good, but kind of novelty.
Why have to compare? Why does one have to win and one have to? It doesn't have to. They're both very good. So
yes. You know what? And when you see the first Thor movie, which I really liked, and the first Iron Man movie, which I really liked, and you see the second Thor movie, the second Iron Man movie, we're like, okay, what happened? How did this go so off the rails that this is so bad? I mean, it was just. It's good to see that not only Captain America can make good sequels. So I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. Go out and see it. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Go to www.avrant.com and leave us a comment there. Facebook.com/avrant. YouTube.com/c/avrant to see your question answered by our talking faces. Mine with my big headphones on. Rob with his little earbuds on, so we can perfectly see the shape of his not freshly shorn noggin, but soon enough, I'm sure. Got a 3 or 4 day growth on that bad boy there. A little Chia Pet action going on.
Yeah.
You can go to, if you want to email us directly or contact us directly, Rob at AVRant. He's at First Reflect for Twitter. I'm Tom at AVRant, at AVRant_Tom for my Twitter. If you want to reach our producer, his name is Austin. He's at Austin Pont, T-E-N Pont. He has his own podcast, the We Watch Movies podcast. It's a podcast about, what you would expect. Colonoscopies. That's what it's about.
That could be a movie. It is a camera.
Getting your picture taken. If you don't want to tell your boss what you're doing, why do you got to take Monday off? Getting my picture taken. That's what you should say. Getting my picture taken. Anybody who knows what you're talking about. By appointment only. That's right. All right, let's get into this here. First thing we want to do is we want to thank our listeners of the week. These listeners of the week went to www.avrant.com, clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, left us a PayPal donation that helps support the podcast, pays for our hosting fees, electricity, I imagine. I don't know. It doesn't pay for your electricity. It certainly doesn't pay for mine, but maybe it could someday. And they did that with either the PayPal account or a credit card. So we want to thank Daniel, William, and Mark for their donations. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Daniel, William, Mark, thank you all so much for those donations. We appreciate it.
And in the news, TCL announced their new P series LCD. Did I know that TCL makes TVs? I knew that, right? We have mentioned that on this podcast.
Chinese company. Up and coming.
I don't know what you're looking at. There's a helicopter outside. Okay. There's a helicopter outside. You're going to be able to hear it on the podcast. I mean, it's like really close. This reminds me of Los Angeles, where you used to go outside to see if the things was going to go by. It's usually down the highway. I live near close to the highway. Anyways, TCL announced their P series LCD TVs. They're cheap. So 50 inches, $500. 55 inch for $600. 65 inch for $1,000. And they have Roku built in, but what makes them exciting is they have full array local dimming with 72 zones. Plus, they support both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. Very much like to know if they're any good, because that is a ridiculously cheap price. Yeah,
for full array local dimming and Dolby Vision support, and for the people who have been like, oh, Dolby must charge so much for the licensing for Samsung to have come up with HDR10 Plus, it's like they managed to put it in a $500 TV, so the license can't be that expensive. Right. So,
or the rest of the TV is absolute garbage. I mean, those are the options, right? So we have to see.
Yeah, we do. But they are claiming wide color gamut. They haven't made any mention of actual peak nit output. I am certain it does not reach 1,000 nits. That would be highly unexpected if they managed to do that. But good news is, if you are using Dolby Vision, then everything gets tone mapped correctly. So, yeah, fingers crossed. They're not out yet, but they've been announced. So keep an eye out.
Yeah, very exciting. We also want to announce, of course, that May 10th was the 10th anniversary of our very first episode. So 10 years, Rob, virtual fist bump.
There.
Wait. I wasn't looking.
Okay.
What direction do I have to go? I have to go...
At your camera. Go at your camera.
Oh, got the camera? Okay, here we go. Ready, set, fist bump.
There you go.
There we go. All right. We could also do this thing, right?
Shoot. There we go.
This way?
Left hand.
Okay, ready, set, go.
Yeah. That's going to be so off.
That's who cares?
Not going to be synchronized at all.
It doesn't really care.
Thank you to our producer, Austin, for looking up that date, because neither of us had any idea.
It's not that hard to look up. I've done it before. I have contacted those of you that remember. I have contacted Liz. I have sent her a Facebook message. She has not responded to me yet.
Okay.
I know that she doesn't check that much Facebook, so though I have seen pictures up there, so I know she's on. So we will see. We will see if Liz will come back. She did say she wanted to, so we will see if we can make that happen. I can also reach out to Dina too.
Yeah.
I don't know how she would do that, but we can maybe make it happen. Got some comments from our listeners. Bill jumped on our advice from last week and already ordered the Harmony Elite remote, which I'm sure he will enjoy.
Yes, congrats, Bill.
I had another experience with my Harmony because I had to send back the projector I was reviewing. So I knocked out, I got the Harmony, was all ready to plug it into my computer so that I could and it was just like, I'll just press sync.
Yeah.
Press sync on your remote. It's good. You don't have to do anything. Just press sync on your remote. You're good. It's like, dang, this thing's easy. Daniel also jumped, and when I say it's easy. Daniel also jumped on our advice from last week and bought an NVIDIA Shield and Harmony Smart Control. He says they are working together beautifully, and after a bit of setup tweaking using the Harmony Setup app. He says it was all a piece of cake, so he thanks us for the recommendation. So, Daniel, you're welcome as well.
Yeah, Daniel, congrats. Glad that worked out. So, yeah, that was the whole thing where the new NVIDIA Shield, the less expensive version, does not have an IR receiver, but the Harmony Smart Control is one of the ones that comes with the Harmony Hub, and the Hub can send out Bluetooth commands, so confirmation, all working swimmingly. So, there you go.
My only experience with Bluetooth that has been negative is that if you don't use it for a long time with whatever device you're like the PS3, I don't turn the PS3 on very much anymore. So when I do, sometimes the Harmony has gotten somehow forgotten by the PS3.
Okay.
But that has been a rare occasion. And you just have to knock out your remote and then tell it to resync and you're good to go. Let's get into these questions, and we have a whole bunch of them.
We do.
we're gonna burn through. We might not get into the full explanation of some of these because I think some of these we're just gonna say yes, no, go on. So, Austin, if you're listening to this, which I hope you are, you have our permission, my permission, and that's pretty much what counts here, to squish some of these questions together if they're real tight. Make sure we have 5 or 10 minute videos. Don't make them like 2-minute videos. I don't want you killing yourself over this. Not worth it, man. You got to have a life too. Austin does all the videos. That is a ton of work.
I know it is.
I don't know how he does. I haven't heard like one word from him. I don't know what that means. Like I'm sort of in this let sleeping dogs lie or let working dogs work or whatever it is. Don't worry about the people in the sweatshop because they're not complaining because you live too far away. I think that's the situation I'm in right now. But Austin, if you're not having a good time, please let me know because I will do something to make your life better. I don't know what it would be. Massage? How do you feel about massage? Let's go start off with these questions here. Dan has a desktop computer system. He'd like an excellent 2.0 speaker setup to play lossless and high-res audio. He'd like a USB connection. He isn't sure if he should opt for self-powered monitors or a DAC amp setup with regular passive speakers. What should he go for? Either self-powered or something that he has to power. He doesn't need it to play very loud, of course not, because it's desktop. Physical space and budget are both limited. So small, excellent sound, not too expensive. What do we recommend? Well, until you said price is a problem, there's the KEF monitors that are fantastic. Before you said that, that was why I was like, this guy wants good sound in a desktop system. The little, what do they call like the ones, reference ones or something like that? They have like the weird name.
It is reference something. Yeah,
but they are these little self-powered, not little. They're little via bookshelf standards, but not tiny. And they are fantastic. But I think they're like $1,500 a pair or something.
Yeah, they do not fit the limited budget criteria.
No, that's where. So I use the Audio Engine something, and I like them.
So they have several, but
they have several. I don't remember which one I have, but I don't think it matters that much in his setup. I think that the one that fits your budget and has, because you can plug in USB, not a problem.
Yep.
You can plug in 3.5 out from your headphone, which is what I do with mine because it's just easier. There's lots of options there, and they're self-powered, and they sound good, and they have different sizes and colors, and they're meant to be on the desk. I like them.
Yeah.
I would go with them.
Yeah, hearing what he wanted to do with this Audio Engine was my first choice for sure. The A2 Plus are their small ones. They're $250 a pair. Would certainly fit the bill here. They have all the connections that you want. You don't need to mess around with any sort of complicated setup. Just plug them in via USB, plug them into the wall for power, and you're good to go. So that's
I don't know if they still make them, but Swan made a number of desktop speaker systems that were larger and not.
That's a callback.
That is, you can still find them. I know that because I've seen them kind of popping around, and they are very, very good desktop speaker brand. A lot of times you'll see the tweeter on the bottom. They're using that reflection off of the bottom. They'll be raked back as well. So they're using that reflection off the table or something. I don't know. Anyways, I've liked them. If you can find them used in a place or something, that might be an option to look into. Much bigger though, generally speaking, much bigger. Dan would also like a display in his bedroom. Right now he's using a 40-inch TV, but he's about 13 feet away. So he'd like a much larger display. He's thinking about a 100-inch projection setup. But if he goes that route, he'd have to have the projector on a stand directly below the screen, meaning that he's looking for an ultra-short throw projector setup. Are there any affordable ultra-short throw options? And should he worry about going any higher than 1080p? All of his sources are 1080p anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Wow, dude. I'll be honest with you. I don't love ultra short throws are fine, but they are generally pretty expensive and they are business class for the most part. So you're thinking to yourself a lot of the times, unless they're not business class, in which case they are really expensive if they're home theater.
Yeah.
Like the home theater ultra short throw, they're like, hey man, how do you feel about a Lexus? Because that's what it's going to cost you. They are really expensive. So is it really necessary for you to have this thing be that close? We can't put it on a shelf up high. We can't hang it from the ceiling upside down. We can't put it on the top of a bookshelf across the room from what you're projecting on. Because I gotta believe you can make something like that happen. I really do. and you will save yourself like a bazillion dollars and get a much better quality, I think, of picture than you're gonna get and projector and than you're gonna get with an ultra short throw. Though I'm sure Rob has an
I have one suggestion that I think sort of fits what he's looking for. I do agree, though, if you are able to work out a ceiling mount or a rear shelf mount, I mean, maybe he doesn't want something hanging over his bed just in case something ever fell down. I can understand that. Or maybe it's an ambient light situation and he's just thinking he wants an ultra short throw projector with an ambient light rejecting screen, which can work very well with a if it's designed specifically because you know exactly where the light is coming from below there. So there are reasons for it, but yeah, in general, ultra short throw projectors are kind of either or. They're either like really small XGA resolution lit by LEDs meant purely for portable business purposes, or they're a $50,000 or $60,000 4K laser driven Sony or something like that. And it's kind of these two extremes. Interestingly, over at Projector Central, they did point out one model. It's 1080p resolution. They say it has pretty darn good video quality from NEC. And NEC, of course, makes business class ultra short throw projectors as well. But they have one model in particular, the U321H, goes for about $1,800, so $1,800 most places you can find it. So that's not crazy expensive. It's got 1080p resolution.
Yeah,
it does good video.
$1,800, you can get like a really nice 1080p projector from across the room. That's going to be a lot quieter. It's going to be, I mean, you're going to be able to take it from where you have it to someplace else a lot easier. I mean, I don't know. The other option, of course, is just like do something with this 40-inch screen so that you can move it towards you. You know what I mean?
That could be a long, with 13 feet. What kind of a telescoping mount are you talking about?
Can you imagine? It would be like those punching gloves in like the Bugs Bunny cartoons and the Roadrunner cartoons all the way across the room. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's something like that.
No, so
I'm not saying that. But there are stuff like that where you mount it onto the foot of your bed and then you pull it up.
I suppose. I mean, yeah, I would. If you're set on ultra short throw, then I'll point you to this NEC, the U321H. It seems like the most reasonable choice at a fairly reasonable price. Otherwise, yeah, I do have to agree. If you can go a regular projector and ceiling mount it, then yeah, that might.
Or just put it on top of a bookshelf. I'm telling you, man, you can make this work. Wesley's never heard of us mention. Has never heard us mention brick wall brand surge protectors. Do we not like them? Have we not heard of them, or have they just not come up? I've not heard of them until I looked at them, and then I thought they were awfully expensive. So that's kind of where, I mean, I was looking for UL certified. I heard a lot of talk about how they have like certain ones of theirs on their website have, exceeded the recommendations of something or something, but I did not see, and there was no pictures that were close enough that showed UL certification on their
they mentioned
stuff.
testing. They mentioned UL testing and IEEE
That's right.
certificate or IEEE testing, but
never does it say certified anywhere on
they just
their
mentioned
marketing
testing.
material.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you could test me for UL certification. I'm gonna fail, but and it's probably gonna hurt me a whole lot when you try to send all the bolts or whatever through me. But I didn't see it, and I figured that's something they would have mentioned. So that makes me think that they're more of a audiophile brand that's not willing to go through.
They didn't look audiophile because they.
I know, but I just don't know why they don't say anything about the certification on there. That's the only thing. I thought they looked expensive compared to APC. Yeah,
Wesley. The reason it's not that I don't like them. I hadn't really heard of them. It kind of maybe rung a distant bell, but I mean they haven't come up, so that part, and I don't really know about them. What they're describing in their design is perfectly fine, using an inductor based system to shunt off any excess voltage and current. That is a totally reasonable way to protect your gear. But yeah, by and large, the reason is because we mostly recommend APC because APC is affordable, definitely UL certified, and they have a wide range of what I really like, which is battery backup solutions. Now, Brickwall does have battery backup, but they're clearly meant for computers. Doesn't mean you couldn't use it for home theater, but it's the tower shape that wouldn't necessarily fit into a normal rack shape, but they offer battery backup. They do look a little bit pricey, and their whole thing is that they're comparing it to ones that use MOVs, which are sacrificial, right? That's your standard surge protector. If you get a surge, it sacrifices itself. Or the thing that is true with your standard MOV based surge protector is that small surges are cumulative over time. That sacrificial part degrades over time, so you can have a bunch of tiny little surges. Obviously it's not going to destroy the surge protector, but over time that degrades it, which means that if a big surge does come after a whole bunch of little ones, it might not fully protect your gear. So all of those criticisms are fine, but that isn't the way APC protects your gear. So it's mainly that we really like APC. We haven't seen a huge reason to go outside of them for a solution for power protection, but I don't have any beef with Brickwall. If you have them and like them, I'm totally fine with that.
I just want somebody show me a picture of
that the UL certification.
You show me that, and I'm like, you can spend your money on them all you want.
Absolutely,
The ones I have a problem with are people who don't have it. And when you don't have it, I'm like, okay, well, then you are not protecting the gear. You clearly even if you are protecting the gear, I don't trust. How can I know that? How can I know that if you haven't had it tested through this? This is not like THX certification where you could do all the stuff and you're just paying for the brand name. This is like, we tried to blow your stuff up and we failed. Good job.
And clearly, since there are very inexpensive surge protectors with a UL certified sticker on them, it's not a price problem. So
it's not a price problem. Yeah. Henry, this comes from Twitter. Henry says his front, left, and right speakers read 76 dB after calibrating their levels. What level should he set for his SVS SB1000 subwoofer? If he attempts to make his subwoofer read 76 dB, he ends up with his trim level set at plus 12 dB. Is this okay? Technically it is, but okay. Why don't you just turn the volume knob up on this SVS? Because that's what you're basically doing.
Might be because he read the very common advice of set your subwoofer's volume knob to the midway point and then use the trim level to adjust, which is advice you see all over the web. So I wouldn't blame you.
Don't do that. Set your trim level to 0 and then adjust your volume knob till you get close to whatever the rest of the things you're calibrating to, which in this case is 76 for whatever reason. And then if you don't feel like getting behind your subwoofer because it's off by 2 dB, then use your trim levels to adjust it.
Yeah, I want to point out a few things. Since he's getting a reading, I'm assuming you're using some sort of SPL meter, a sound pressure level meter. Yeah. You want to make sure that is a C-weighted SPL meter and set it to the slow response time so that the needle or the readout isn't jumping all over the place and you can't get a somewhat stable reading. So C-weighted, slow response on your SPL meter. You play the test tones out of your AV receiver. You go into the speaker settings. You go into the speaker levels. That's what we call your trim levels. And that will play a test tone one at a time out of each of your speakers. You should, even though you shouldn't have to, but you should, prior to going into that setup menu, set your master volume so it reads 0 dB on the front panel, because we have discovered many AV receivers, the test tone levels actually do change with the master volume.
Many.
So
many?
Yeah.
Are we going with many?
Currently, yours does. Mine does.
Mine doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
The X4000? No, it doesn't.
X4000 totally. Try it, dude. Totally does.
I haven't done it in a long time.
It shouldn't. It's dumb, but that's something you need to do. Master volume set to 0 dB, should be at reference volume. Then you play the test tones. Then you look at your SPL meter. And everything, your subwoofer included, should read 75 dB. That's what the test tones are calibrated to read. So it should read 75 dB. And yeah, use the volume knob on the back of your SVS. It's not the end of the world if you do end up at plus 12 dB. That's the max of the scale as far as I know. It's not like you're going to hurt anything if that's how you got there.
No, you're not. But
it shouldn't be necessary.
Necessary to do that. It doesn't give you any ability to adjust it up higher if something. If you decide you want to goose it a little bit at some point. So you want to keep it closer to. I like to keep it just close to 0. Whatever the 0 trim level is, I like to keep it close to that. Yep. Sometimes it'll set a little bit higher, sometimes it'll set a little bit lower, but whatever. Luke has a small 800 cubic foot room for listening to music. He's been using a Polk PSW10 subwoofer, but it's cheap, non-linear, and has poor extension, so he wants an upgrade. Clearly, he's more concerned with extension than output in this case, but is there anything less expensive than SVS PB1000 that we'd recommend? Well, I mean, PB isn't the SB1000 a little bit less expensive?
Nope, it's the same price, $500.
Is it the same price? All right.
You could look at
I
the
wouldn't even
outlet
recommend
store. Sometimes they have a B stock, but
he's more worried about extension, and this is where you get run into problems. Now we can come up with cheaper subwoofers pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but extension is where you run into issues. Like a lot of times, for a long time, we were recommending the HSU STF.
The STF2, which is sadly discontinued. I wish it was
discontinued, but the extension was not nearly as low as it was
25
like 25.
hertz. Yeah, it was 25 hertz.
Instead of, well, I mean, the PB1000 is going down to 20, right? 2019, something like that.
But this is a music-only system, so
the man cares about extension.
He does.
That's what it says. More concerned with extension than output. So that's where we run into a little bit of issues. Your value propositions are usually going to be with getting the best extension for the least amount of money is in the SVS early range and perhaps HSU, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
and
well, HSU's VTF1 Mark III, which is now their smallest, least expensive model, it's $400, but there is $50 of shipping on top of that. So you're only saving $50 versus the SVS, because the SVS is $500 but it has free shipping. But $450, now it can be tuned because it has variable tuning. That's what the V in the VTF stands for, is variable. It can be variable tuned, and it can extend down to 22 hertz, and that's at minus 2 dBs, which means
that's
down
pretty good.
Down to 20 dB should be pretty, and obviously output not a problem in an 800 cubic foot room. So if you can save $50 with that HSU VTF1 and essentially get 20 hertz extension, very close to it anyway. Mm-hmm. The other two I'm going to suggest are also both $400. They come with free shipping though, so it's actually $400. That's $100 less expensive than the PB1000, and that would be the RSL Speedwoofer 10S. That was highly rated over at Audioholics. Now they have that wonderful line of usable, and I'm making air quotes for our audio only listeners, usable output down to 20 hertz. It's really tuned to about 25 hertz, but that's totally fine for a 10-inch sub at $400, 25 hertz. That's what the HSU STF2 that I liked so much was just like. So that could be a very reasonable replacement. Emotiva also has their base X subs. They have their S12. Now that is a 12-inch driver. The other two are 10-inch drivers, but it's a less powerful amp and a slightly smaller box, so its extension is about 25 hertz as well. So, I mean, the thing is, all of these companies are doing about as much as you can do with a $400 sub.
Really.
Give you roughly 25 hertz extension. All of them I'd be fine with, and especially for music, in an 800 cubic foot room where you're going to be getting a whole bunch of room gain anyway.
Why is he going with that? I'm surprised that he's not looking at the SB1000. I know the extension is
it's the money, because he wanted less expensive. So what's the point of going with an SB1000 when it costs just as much?
Because he sits in such a small room.
Yeah,
I would think that he'd be more worried about floor space. I understand that, but I'm just talking about for floor space. Okay. I'm just kind of surprised. So he says there are a few instruments that can dig down to 20 hertz or even lower, but most don't play lower than 30 or 40 hertz.
True.
So how important is it to have extension below 35 hertz strictly for music, and how much modern music content actually plays below 35? I don't know that we know how much plays below 35. It's possible that much of it does. There are often, like in, even stuff as old as Seal, there's some real low bass notes that you won't hear if you don't have a sub that digs low. And this kind of rolls into the next question. The question the question you have to ask yourself is, do I care?
Yeah.
Because this is what you're asking us here. You're asking us, should I care about getting down to 20 hertz? And the answer is, well, I don't know.
I mean, I care only. For strictly music, unless all you listen to is pipe organs, and even then, how often do they actually play that 16 hertz or that 18 hertz pedal? Very rarely are they actually making use of that pedal. So, I mean, electronic music, almost nothing below 35 hertz. That's the lowest note on a stand-up bass, or a piano doesn't even play that. That's 36 point whatever hertz, the lowest note on a piano. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not too worried. For music only getting right down to 20 hertz. If you can get solidly to 35 hertz, and hey, that PSW 10 sub from Polka, that thing rolls off about 45, so you're missing a whole bunch. yeah, if you can get solidly down to 35 hertz for music, the amount below that is, in my opinion, is pretty minimal. So I'm not too worried about it.
But that doesn't really answer the question, which is how much should you care about it? And the answer is we don't know how much you care about it. Rob doesn't care that much about it. It would bug me, especially when we're talking about a difference of, in the essence, with the range of about $100. $100. $100, and you're sure to get every single note that is being played.
Okay.
Versus, saving $100, and there's this thing in the back of your head that says, I wonder if there's something down there.
I would want to put that in someone's head. That
well, I'm just saying. And for me as well, I know it's a 25% increase. $400 to $500 is 25% above. 125% of the price of the $400 sub is $500. I, at the same time, would make the argument that you're buying a sub that you will be able to roll into a home theater system perhaps in the future. So there's that to consider as well. I mean, not saying that you can't take a sub that rolls off at 25 or 30 hertz and put it in a home theater. You certainly can. But then you're going to be asking this question, how much should I care about this? And we're going to say a lot when it comes to movies. Because there's a lot of stuff down there.
That's
like
true.
in every explosion ever, it's down there. So, I mean, I don't know. Can you make the justification for it? I absolutely think Rob's absolutely right. You certainly can for a music-only system. But I'm just giving you the devil's advocate side of it, which says, maybe you wouldn't just spend extra money.
Okay.
Lastly, ask if you were simply missing most sounds below 70 or 80 hertz, what significance would that missing frequency range have when it comes to the rest of the music?
A lot.
Yeah, I mean, you would know that there was supposed to be something there. You would hear that there's, the bass would kind of like fall off at some point. You're like,
well, it's interesting because, I mean, acoustically, you'll get the harmonics, right? Even from your kick drum, ones, yeah. Right? You'll get the harmonics. So it's not that let's say your speakers played down to 80 hertz and then quickly rolled off. It's not like you would think there is no kick drum anymore, because there still would be the harmonic sounds, but you're missing the actual, like, especially since this isn't a headphone system, this is an actual speaker system, you're missing the true tactile. It's not going to thump you in the chest like the 40 hertz, 45 hertz thump of a kick drum would in real life. That is just, it's not being played. So to me, that's really significant. Not having anything play below 80 hertz to me is not a pleasant way to listen to music. I want that stuff there because that's important. That's the fundamentals in your bass.
I mean, I think it would sound a lot like when you have like the music turned down too low and you're listening to it, you can kind of hear it, but that you're missing some stuff. Yeah. That's the way it would feel. You would hear sort of the upper end of whatever the bass notes that were being played, where the kick drum with the bass guitar, or Darth Vader talking, something like that. You would hear the upper of that, but you would know that something was missing. It would not sound natural anymore. So I think that would be a significant difference. Now, could you live with it? If you had never, if you weren't real familiar with how music instruments really sound, you might think that's the way they really sound, and you'd be okay with it.
I mean, you can listen to a song played through your laptop speakers and recognize the song. It's not like, that isn't.
You would know it was, yeah. I mean, the same thing happens when I'm trying to edit the podcast. The old intro to this podcast, I couldn't, on my computer speakers, I couldn't hear the bass line at all.
Right.
I knew it was there. I mean, you could kind of hear something going on, but you couldn't hear the notes. And I was not able to ever edit the podcast and line up us starting to talk right after the bass. I could do it eventually because I could just recognize the waveform. But when I first started, I had to have headphones because I could not hear it. And that's the way you would be. Let's go on. Ty has a basement room stripped down to the studs. The finished room will be 19 by 12 by 8. By 8.5 feet tall. The seating will be just 2 recliners, and his current plan is to have them 2 feet from the back wall. Really?
In a 19-foot long room,
really?
I'm confused by that too. We'll take it at face value at first.
Maybe maybe he's gonna sit on the 12-foot side, like he's gonna be like it's gonna be 19 feet wide and 12 feet from him to screen.
Maybe
could that be it?
It could be. I mean, he
that
described
makes more
it as,
sense.
or I don't know. I don't have the email right in front of me, so maybe he was saying 19 feet wide and 12 feet long. I read it as 19
read
feet
this
long,
question like 5 times.
Wide,
I was like,
yeah,
2 feet off the back wall. Are you sure? I was thinking he was gonna say like something like 12 feet off the front wall or something like that, which would make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. So,
anyways, he has a pair of Martin Logan Motion 40 tower front speakers with a Motion 30 center. And he has an HSU ULS 15 Mark II subwoofer with plans to add a second. All right. So these Martin Logans are the ones with the folded ribbon tweeters. Yes. They're more normal looking speakers. So just think of them as big black boxes that are really super expensive. He wants to know what Atmos speaker layout he should go for. 7.2.4, 5.2.4, 7.2.2, blah, 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 blah. What do we suggest? We suggest that you don't sit 2 feet off the back wall.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that we suggest. We suggest you move your chairs in so they are a third of the way into the room off of the back wall. Sort of like as a general guideline. And 2 feet ain't it, dude.
So you can have roughly 12 and a half feet in front of you, roughly 6 feet behind you.
Yes.
That or 8 feet behind you, you could even have. But yeah, you could have roughly 6 feet behind you, 12 and a half feet in front of you or so, assuming there's some depth to your head, and I figure there is.
Now, if you're going to go with let's just answer the question as asked.
Right.
2 feet off the back wall.
Yeah.
Surround back speakers are completely and totally out. You cannot have them. You have no room. Okay. You could go with 5.2.4. So you would have top middles and front heights.
Sure.
Right? And I think that's what you would have.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that.
You cannot have speakers behind you.
Yeah, I mean he's saying it's strictly going to be 2 recliners, so that's why. I mean, if it's 12 feet wide, that's totally wide enough for 2 recliners. If it's 19 feet wide and only 2 recliners, none of this completely makes sense. I don't know, Ty. Maybe you can explain it to us, but we're assuming
maybe a walkway, maybe something. We don't know.
Yeah, so I can't figure out why you would be 17 feet away from your front wall.
Your pit, no matter what, if that whole wall is a screen, it's going to look too small.
Even if the whole wall is a screen, it seems small.
It's too small. It's going to be too small.
Unless he's putting in like a big old false wall, and that's going to be like 3 feet deep. Even then, you're still like 14 feet away from. It's
still too small.
We can't quite figure this out. Ty. What I would do in a room that has dimensions of 19 by 12 is I'd sit about 12 feet from that front wall. And I would have a 7.2.4 system.
Yes.
So that's what I would do, Ty. But if there is, and there could be a completely valid reason why you have to be only 2 feet off the back wall. If that's the case, then I would go 5.2.4. So to answer the question directly, that's what I would do.
Yeah. If you do move yourself into the room, 7.2.4, you can go with surround backs. You could go with top middles and with front heights, or you can go with
top fronts, top rears, as you would.
Top rears, either way.
Yeah.
So you have more options that way. If there's a reason why you want to sit 2 feet off the back wall, feel free to do so. You have your answer. But if you don't, then if you don't have a good reason, then maybe you can consider doing what we said.
And speaking of surround back speakers, very close to you.
Yes, Infinite Gary. So Infinite Gary's got a picture here. You guys have probably seen this as one seat solution. In this little bedroom here he's experimenting with a 7.1.4 speaker setup when he's playing movies that have a 5.1 soundtrack. Should the surround back speakers be silent? If you don't have any sort of matrix scene going on, then yes, they should be silent.
Yeah, if you're playing them, if you take a 5.1 soundtrack and play it straight through, it just says the decoder, whether that's Dolby Digital or Dolby True HD. If it is a 5.1 soundtrack, then it will only play out of 5.1 speakers. To get it to make use of your other speakers, your surround backs and your overhead speakers. In Gary's case, they are the upward firing Dolby enabled modules. Then you would use something like the Dolby Surround Up Mixer or the DTS Neural X Up Mixer, and then sound will come out of all 11 of your speakers in this setup.
Right. So he asks if there's a listening mode on his Marantz SR6011 that will make sounds come out of the surround back speakers when playing 5.1 contact with bucketing sound from the 7.1 speakers, but not the Atmos speakers when playing 5.1? Oh, that's a good question.
It is.
Basically the Atmos or the whatever the DTS.
Yeah, so Dolby Surround
Neo
upmixer
X, is that what it's
and
called now?
DTS Neural X upmixers.
Those will take whatever you get and turn it into out of all the speakers.
Correct.
But that includes the Atmos speakers.
That it does.
So is there a way to turn off the Atmos part of that decoding and just use the 7 point? I mean, you could do it by just
go into the speaker
receiver
setup menu and say,
and tell it
have.
I don't have them, and then it won't play anything through them.
That's correct.
But I think that's probably not a solution that he's really super interested in. But why on God's green earth would you install all these speakers and then not want them to play?
Well, I can see it. I mean, there could be some instances where the upmixing doesn't do a fantastic job of utilizing the overheads, and you go, you know what, I would rather just turn those off, but I would still like to expand the 5.1 to 7.1. I can see that scenario. So, strictly speaking, the SR6011 doesn't actually have that. Yeah, as far as I know, it doesn't have that. I'm trying to think if it has its own DSP of some sort. I suppose maybe one of those, like the concert hall,
rock band or something.
Yeah, something like that might do
jazz.
it. But yeah, as far as I know, it like Dolby Surround Upmixer and DTS Neural X, it doesn't, and they don't give you the option like say Anthem does. Anthem gives you the option of you could use the Dolby Surround Upmixer to do all 11, or they still give you the option to use Dolby Pro Logic 2X. Right? They gave you all the decoders. The Marantz SR6011 does not. Interestingly, if you go to one of the Denon and Marantz models that lets you pay $200 to upgrade to Oro 3D, Oro 3D does have both 3D upmixing and 2D upmixing. They give you the two separate settings. But the SR6011 can't be upgraded to decode Oro.
What's a 2D upmixing? What is that? Just
2D upmixing
overhead?
is stereo. Actually, anything from mono, stereo up to 5.1, upmix to 7.1. That's the Oromatic 2D upmixing. So
yeah. So I don't know why you want this, Gary, but I don't think I
no. That's a really good question, and
it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question, but I think the answer is nobody at Marantz or Denon never thought anybody would want to do it until
they figured you'd want to use all the speakers you have if you're gonna upmix.
If you paid to install speakers, you want those speakers to be playing. That's more commonly the complaint than I've got too much sound coming out of my different. I want some of these speakers not to play anymore. So, he asks, are Atmos discs the same 7.1 sound with just with additional overhead sounds?
No.
Well, I mean, there is the bass track, the bass layer, which is the the Dolby Atmos whatever channel mix, and then there's metadata on top of it, right? I mean, isn't that how this thing works? So. I mean, it's basically the metadata just says, okay, this is where you put, the sound, the overhead sounds. It's not channel based, it's object based. But I mean, it's very similar. I mean, there's not going to be a huge amount of difference, though.
Right. Well, there's two sides to the answer. So, for example, let's say there was a Blu-ray that was already released previously with a 7.1 DTS HD Master Audio soundtrack, and that's what was on it. And then there's a re-release with an Atmos or a DTS X soundtrack on it. They didn't just take that original 7.1 DTS HD Master Audio track and throw in some overhead sounds and call it a day. So the question as asked, the answer to that is no. It is a completely new remix. They remixed the whole soundtrack, maybe not from scratch, but they remixed the whole soundtrack into immersive audio. So it's not like they took what was already there and then just added some overhead sounds. It is a remix of the original sound stems, the original little sound objects individually. So in that sense. Now on the other end of it, you can take an immersive audio mix, a Dolby Atmos mix, or a DTS X mix, and play it in 7.1. And you won't lose any sounds. Those sounds will still get played out of your existing. They'll get played out of 2-channel stereo if that's all you've set up. So you don't lose any sounds by taking an immersive mix and playing it out of fewer speakers. But the question as asked, it's not like they just took what used to be there and added more to it. It is a totally new master.
Right, but I think that when I read the question, what I was saying is like if I play Atmos, like I take a disc that has Atmos on it and I play it, is it a completely different track if I'm using the Atmos versus if I'm using a non-Atmos receiver, and it's the same track. It's just the
data, it's the same track. Yeah. But if you had the same movie with two different sound mixes, those aren't what. It's not just the same sound mix replicated and then some overhead sounds added to it. It's not that. It's they remixed. Same. Yeah, they remastered the entire track.
Right. So when you played that through your, if you bought this new disc, you are going to be playing the same track through a 7.1 receiver versus an Atmos receiver. Right. It's just the Atmos receiver can do more with it because of the metadata. Is this lastly? Mm-hmm. Are we on lastly yet? We are on lastly. Lastly asks, do we have any first-hand experience with the ISO acoustics isolation stands? He tried comparing his Dynaudio monitors on a desk, going back and forth on and off the ISO stands. He thought the mid-range and bass sounded cleaner with the speakers on the isolation stands, but it was subtle. These stands are, I don't know if you're seeing this picture, but I'm sure you are. These are basically just a way of decoupling the speaker from the shelf or whatever. Basically, if you look at the website, they'll talk about the console because a lot of times when you're doing mixing in a professional setting, you've got your speaker sitting right on your console. Your console's got all the little sliders or whatever the stuff it has on it these days. Back in the day, I always thought of the sliders, and the speakers are vibrating back and forth, and they're shaking your console. This is to stop that from happening. So Gary says he's experiencing a tightening of this and the blah, 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 blah of that. The reality is, this is what we talk about all the time, is just decoupling, stopping the vibrations from going through the speaker and into whatever you're listening to. So if something sounds tighter or whatever, there could have been some interference from the resonating of the table that it is sitting on. Mm-hmm. That could have been affecting what you were hearing. That could be it. But we're constantly harping on this anyways. I mean, these are very nice stands. It also raises them up a little bit. They have different sizes of these things, which is kind of nice. They're probably, a lot more expensive than the mouse pads Rob would have suggested. But they probably work about as well as the mouse pads that Rob would have suggested.
Yeah, they're springs. That's what they are. They're springs. I don't have firsthand experience with them. I personally think they're a bit overpriced because they're springs. All you need is something squishy under your speakers, but there is absolutely no reason why these couldn't work. And as Tom pointed out, it's nice that they have the different sizes. So if this is a matter of, I need this exact height, then you can order them in that height. So that's nice. If you're willing to just pay the money and that isn't the problem to you, then they're a totally nice solution for giving you something squishy underneath your speakers. And for Gary's purposes, I would say the louder you play those speakers, the more noticeable it'll probably be. Because if you play them, if you just had your speakers sitting directly on the table and you played them very loud, you might even hear an outright rattle. That could happen, or you would hear the table itself resonating in sympathy with the movement of the speakers. Then you put the springs under them, and all that goes away. So the louder you play the speaker, the more noticeable it'll probably be. I'm fine with them. I think they're a bit overpriced, but there's no reason they wouldn't work.
Yeah, I think they're fine.
Yeah,
they're fine. They look nice too. I mean, I like them. I like the way they look. But
they are more attractive than a mouse pad.
No, not the AVRant. The AVRant mouse pads are awfully pretty, sir. Let's not
in our minds.
In our minds. From our Better Sound Audio site that we're going to start. So that the BSA site. Better Sound Audio.
BS Audio.
It's BS. Topher. BS Audio we're gonna make a bajillion dollars on that website. Topher. He's got a long, thin house, if you're seeing this image right here. Topher and his wife just bought a new place. The setup is long and narrow, and rather narrow, with the living room being 10 feet from front to back and completely open on one side to the dining room, which then leads in the kitchen, then leads in the entryway, hallway, bathroom, blah, 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 all one long row. Anyways, he already has a 7.1 Sony 3300 ES receiver. I have no idea what move set. I didn't know Sony still made receivers, but anyways, he'd like a killer sound system with a max budget of $2,000. What would we suggest, and what speakers and subwoofers should he buy? All right, the man is sitting close to his speakers. The man is sitting very, very close to his speakers. I believe that he wants probably something small and something that integrates well into his space. that won't take up too much room and will look nice in this. From what I can see by the one picture we have here, very nicely decorated and furnished place.
Yeah.
So I would probably go with the NHT Super Zeros or something small like that.
I can dig that.
5.1 configuration. So 5 of those guys, which are what they're now like 110 a pop or something like
125
that. 125
each. Yeah, for those.
All right,
so
Super
Zeros.
five of those are going to be $700, $600-700, something like that. $700. All right, and then you're going to need a subwoofer to go with that. The problem you're going to run into is that you have a very small space for your whole room. The part where your TV is, but the entire space is huge or fairly huge. I like on the diagram here, it says gallery. I always wonder what a gallery is. What's a gallery? It's not. Is it art? Are we supposed to put art in there?
Well, you could.
It looks
I mean,
a lot like a hallway.
It's a hallway, but if you put art on it, then it's a gallery.
Unless the place comes with art, you can't put gallery on there. You just put hallway like a normal
Sounds
person.
better than hallway.
I'm sure it does, but it's stupid. Anyways, yeah. So I would probably go with either. I don't know. I'm just kind of like guesstimating based on the look of this place. I'm going with like a 2000 series sub, probably at least a single PC 2000 kind of someplace, and then hoping that we can make that whatever that prize seat or seats are sound pretty decent. You could go dual subs. I'd be okay with that. It's going to be hard to place them in a way that's really super good. I mean, you kind of would want to put them like real near in the kitchen, maybe. I mean, like that little half wall or whatever that thing is. Like, could you put it in the kitchen? Could you put one in the kitchen right there, and just sort of move it along that wall? I guess I don't know.
So I'm looking at this and I'm going, aesthetics I think are a concern.
Yeah, I think so too.
I am in 100% agreement with the small, compact, nice looking, nice sounding speakers, because you don't need crazy output. You're sitting close to these. I like the NHT Super Series. I'm in with that. I would maybe point you to Ascend Acoustics HTM 200 SEs. Looks wise, maybe not quite as nice as the Super Series, but pretty much all you see is their grill anyway. So it's
right.
they're black boxes. The HTM 200 series, I would be very, very happy with in this sort of setup. I'm taking your $2,000 max budget, and I'm spending the lion's share of that on dual subwoofers if I could. Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think
in this
so.
setup,
I mean, it's a couch in here. I mean, what we're going to be asking you to do, because I'm going just put them both up front, put them on either side of that TV console, and do the trial and error of playing with the phase of one of them to get as uniform bass response as you can across your two seats. I would point you to a pair of SB2000s because they're nice, compact, small. Yeah. They have the variable tuning. It's $1,300 you're spending just on the two subs, but then it's $700 you're spending on 5 of the Ascend Acoustics HTM 200s or 5 of the Super Zeros. So that works. The budget works. Yeah, I wouldn't want to forego dual subs in here.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
I think he wants a killer sound system. But you'll notice both of us are suggesting using 5 speakers because you have no space behind you.
You have no space behind you.
The seat has to be up against the wall. There's no reason to spend more money on speakers you don't need and aren't going to sound good. So 5 speakers. Right. I'm saying 2 subs. Or you know what? If you start with 1 sub and add the second one later, also
that's what I say.
Yeah.
Get the PC 2000, find some place to put that thing, and then see how it sounds.
I'm betting aesthetically an SB 2000 works better in here, but
yeah, it might be.
But we're far more in agreement than not, so that's our suggestion.
There we go. Christopher has a 7.1 setup with Pioneer Andrew Jones. I haven't talked about them in forever. Andrew Jones speakers and a DIY sub. He's considering a speaker upgrade with a maximum of $1,500 budget, and he's strongly leaning towards Ascend Acoustics. I think I stopped reading this question when I got there. Not that has anything to do with Andrew, but I just figured, this is Rob. He sits less than 10 feet away, so his main goal is better realism rather than louder and lower, which aren't really needed because he's got his own DIY sub, which probably dips into the ones. He's debating between replacing all 7 of his speakers with Ascend SE series speakers or replacing only the front 3 speakers for now with Sierra 1s. What do we think the better option? Or should he avoid either option and wait until you can afford speakers with the raw ribbon tweeters.
I understand the dilemma.
Yeah, I do too. I think that you should. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to think about this for a second. Because I think my sense here is that you should go with just do not the front three, but the front left and right with the Sierra ones, 4 right now, and then live with them for a little while and see how you like them. Then, if you like them a lot, you are good, and then you replace everything else as you go along with similar speakers. If you think these are very good, but I think I would like something better, then you move those to your surround position. You replace your front ones with the RALs, and you have some time to save to make that happen. There are tons of other options out there. Now, you're leaning towards this in acoustics, and they are perfectly fine company, and they make great speakers. So I have no reason to dissuade you from that. But by saying that, you are not really allowing us, or at least me, to recommend other speaker options, of which there are many out there that are in this kind of price.
You end up with a similar scenario, though, which is if the question is replace all 7 speakers now or just 2 or 3, regardless of the brand, you end up with a similar thing of you're either going to go to a lower series or you can afford only 2 or 3 of a higher series. So
I like the idea of just replacing the mains. The Andrew Jones speakers are very good. They're fine. And I think they'll do, especially for surround duty, they'll be fine. The center is probably not going to hold up real well compared to your main speakers, but why replace your center when you're not sure? That's where I kind of come down to this. If you replace the 2 and you go, wow, the difference is amazing and these things are amazing, then you know what you got to do next. You buy the center channel in the surrounds and you probably won't even want to replace the surrounds, but maybe you will, and that would be fine too. But why replace all 7 of them right now? I don't think that's not for $1,500. Not if you're looking for a major upgrade.
Right.
I would go for something that you can afford fairly easily, so that, and I don't remember what the Sierra ones are. Aren't they like $500 a pair? Isn't that something like that?
No, Sierra ones are about $800 a pair.
All right. So for $800 a pair, you're spending just over half your budget, but that means you still have just under half your budget left to save up for the center channel, or to save up towards these RAL ribbon upgrades if you decide to go that way.
Yeah. So the question has asked, Chris, I would suggest going for the Sierra series. So I wouldn't do the all 7 speakers from the SE series. I say go with the Sierra series. My question would be, do you get just a pair of Sierra 2s, which have the RAL ribbon tweeter, because those you can get for under $1,500. So do you get just one pair for left-right, or do you get just a pair of Sierra 1s, or even all 3? You could get left, center, right of Sierra 1s. I'm kind of leaning, and this is similar to Tom's advice, but a little bit different. I'm kind of leaning towards actually getting 3 Sierra 1s, because you can separately buy Sierra 2 upgrade kits where you get the kit, you at home replace the tweeter, woofer, and crossover. So essentially all you're keeping is the cabinet. But you can upgrade Sierra 1s to Sierra 2s later. Now, the total cumulative cost of having first bought Sierra 1s and then later buying the Sierra 2 upgrade kits does exceed just buying the Sierra 2s right off the bat, as you might expect. But to me, this lets you get all front 3 perfectly matching front 3 right now within your budget. You've already got the Sierra series, and then if you want to upgrade to the Sierra 2s with the RAL ribbon tweeters and the curve woofer, in the future, you have an upgrade path that doesn't require buying entirely new speakers. You can just buy the kits that upgrade the woofers and the crossovers. So
I guess my problem with this is that I don't like the idea of buying that center channel speaker right now.
Really?
And the reason is because if you just buy the 2, you are ultimate flexibility. You can make them into surrounds.
I mean, I can promise if you got Sierra 2 left rights right now and tried to match it with the Andrew Jones center, that's a mismatch.
That's not going to go.
Yeah.
That's not going to go. Yeah. But then again, maybe that's good too. You got those 2, you now have motivation to save up for the center channel and everything else. So, I mean, there's some options here. I like the idea of just buying the 2, because then you can say, even if they're Sierra 1s or Sierra 2s, whichever one.
I don't mind that as your audition to make sure that these are what you want. Yeah, I'd be good with that. Maybe you buy a pair of Sierra 1s and a pair of Sierra 2s, and you send one back. Then you got exactly what you wanted.
Can you get? That's true. That is true. Yeah. That is true. But they don't have free return shipping on those, do they? The Sierra 1s?
No. So I was actually looking through Ascend's website. It looks like they're not offering the free two-way shipping on anything anymore. That must have been a limited time thing, unfortunately, because at one point they were offering free two-way shipping on CBM 170s, CMT 340s, and Sierra 1s. It was just those three models.
Right, I do remember it was a Sierra 1s. That's
but they don't seem to be offering the free two-way shipping anymore, unfortunately. It never hurts to call and ask them, though, because sometimes they're very flexible. Especially if you're like, I'm going to buy one of these. Is there any chance you could send me a pair of Sierra 1s and a pair of Sierra 2s and let me send one back for free? It would not hurt to call and ask. So, yeah.
Don't tell them we told you that, though.
But it never hurts to call and talk to them.
Don't tell them. Listen, we don't tell them we told you that. Tara got her new Marantz SR5011 AV receiver. Now she's looking to upgrade her speakers in stages at a time. All right, I like the way you think, Tara. That's what I was just suggesting. She'd like to start with the new pair of front, left, right speakers for under $500 a pair. The room's a little over 12 by 12, but there's two openings to the rest of the house. She's leaning towards an SVS PC2000 for the sub. I like the way this woman thinks.
Very much so.
She's replacing a small Yamaha 5.1 speaker package. So with all that in mind, what do we recommend? $500 a pair.
Mm-hmm. There's some good options.
There are a lot of good options out there.
Some with free two-way shipping.
I was going to say, what are the EMP techs going for these days? Those still under $500 a pair?
The R5 BIs. They certainly the Impression series. The Impression series. Oh yeah, they would be definitely under $500 a pair. Well under.
That would be an easy recommendation for me. Those right there, I think, would be a nice. Now you're going. Okay, first of all, Tara, I gotta let you know, almost anything that we recommend, or anything that at this point, if you're looking at SVS as being your subwoofer, anything that you would pick up as like on a lark is going to sound better than what you have right now. You're going to be fantastically impressed with whatever you get. You're welcome. Our recommendation did it, not the fact that you have gotten to the point of your AV journey where you're just knowledgeable enough not to be suckered in by, oh, look, it says that they've got 100,000 watts in them. So good job. Good job on us and good job on you. Now, you're going to be sitting awfully close. Mini speakers will be just fine. You're not going to be sitting too far away.
No.
So we're not looking at tower speakers because we don't have to. If you're interested in tower speakers, there are options out there. $500 a pair makes it a little bit tight. But so the EMP Tech, I think, is a really good option. They look good. They have a very neutral sound. And while they will be able to play much louder than you need them to play, they're flexible in the future for what they can do.
Yeah.
So that would be a good one for me.
I'm also looking ahead. She has a 5.1 speaker package right now. The plan is to eventually replace all, but doing it in stages, which we love, starting with the front, left, right. So we want to make sure that there is a future upgrade path. So the one little niggle I have with the EMP Techs is they're only selling that gigantic center. They don't have the smaller center anymore. And I'm thinking just physically, that gigantic RBH center might be an issue.
You'll have to take a look at that for sure.
Yeah, but that's just something to be aware of. But there's also plenty of other ones. So, I mean, we're not going to be able to tell you exactly which one to get because we like all of these. But Aperion Audio, free two-way shipping, their Intimus series, maybe a set of 5B bookshelf speakers. They'd be really nice, look nice too. They have some different finish options. SVS, you were already thinking of an SVS sub. Their Prime speaker series fits into this price class. The Prime bookshelf speakers, really nice sounding. And again, both of those, they have you can fully round it out with a center and surrounds in the future.
Yes.
Ascend Acoustics, their CBM 170 SE speakers, and then the rest of the SE series to fill it out. They would fit in this price class. And then you could also go over to accessories for less because the Focal Bird speakers. We don't always think about them for fronts, but there's absolutely no reason you couldn't use Focal Birds up front and say Focal Little Birds as your surrounds mounted on the wall. If you were coming from a 5.1 home theater in a box speaker package and you want something that's nice and compact looking,
Right.
The Focal Birds are excellent sounding and could be a really good choice. And they also sell over at Accessories for Less Kef, their Q series. The Kef Q series.
Yes, the Q series is very good.
Would be very good as well. I mean, if you could choose any of those strictly based on looks, and we'd be like, great choice, because all of those are good speakers, right? They're all good
Absolutely.
speakers. Yeah.
The one thing I will say about the RBH, the Impression series, though, I want to come back to that, is that and this is true. You can almost mix and match any center channel with their system, and it's going to sound pretty good. I have very rarely found a system, a speaker system that does not play well with RBH. RBH is neutral sounding, so they play well with everybody. Unless what you're going with is something that's not neutral sounding, in which case RBH is going to sound real different. Now, that may make your new speaker sound good, that may make your new speaker sound bad, but it kind of depends on what you prefer. But if you're going with something that has a sound like Bang & Olufsen or Golden Ear or B&W, Klipsch, you're going to say, oh, well, these don't sound the same.
Yeah.
Most of the rest of these speakers that we're recommending are all going to have a similar sound. They're very neutral. They're very flat. They're trying to reproduce the music as best they can. And they have their limitations because of the price point.
Yeah. We should mention NHT as well.
Yeah, very small.
It's a little bit odd there because in the Super Series, they're less expensive than the $500 per pair. And then if you go to the C series, they're more expensive, or considerably more. And then the M series in between is like for Atmos, because they integrate the upward firing driver whether you want it or not. I'm not a huge fan of that. So yeah, it's a little bit weird because NHT's either, considerably less expensive or considerably more expensive than your budget. But the Super Series, because it's not just the Super Zeros, there is the Super Center and the Super 2.1, the slightly larger bookshelf as well. Very good sounding speakers. And hey, maybe you don't mind paying less and still getting very nice speakers. So yeah, NHT as well. I know that might actually be more of a hindrance than a help because we just threw out a ton of options. But if you go through those and look at them, honestly, you could pick one of them by looks and we'd be happy with that. So we want to get
and I hate to say it, I mean, that's half the reason I bought the bicycle I bought. I was like, I like the way this one looks better than that one. I'm sorry. That one looks like every other bike on the road, and this one looks a little bit different. That's kind of special. It's got some gold on it, a little bit of bling, and I was like, this is cool. So that's why I bought it. One of the reasons I bought it. Now, going on, she knows she could potentially, well, I guess we're looking at a picture of her room now. I know she could potentially improve the sound a bit by moving the couch off of the back wall. But other than that slight adjustment, do we see any obvious ways she could better position the entire setup? Well, okay. You've got some options, some things to deal with here. One of the things you're to deal with is that you've got a very square room. And you are sitting all the way across from it at your TV. And yes, we would... I don't know why... I'll be honest with you. I don't know why your primary seat is where you say your primary seat is. Now, if your primary seat is there because that's where you sit, then that makes sense. And then because I like the armrest and I like to lean back and that's what it is, then that's fine. Or maybe that's what there's like reclining seats on both sides, and that's the one. The middle one doesn't recline. Totally get it. But it looks like you should have that middle seat as your primary seat. That's what it looks like to me.
You could continue sitting where you sit as the primary seat and shift the TV over a little bit so that it's more centered.
Or even shift the left speaker over some, so that it is, it's not firing directly into your face.
Although it looks like, there's a desk set up to the left of it. So
I don't know what that brown thing is. Does it say desk? That could be anything over there. I don't know what's over there.
I don't know.
But yeah, it does look like we could move everything to the left a little bit.
Not the seat.
You can leave, not the seat.
Yeah.
But the TV and all of that over to the left a little bit.
Good.
You would greatly benefit from having two subwoofers in this room.
Well, I mean, with all the doorways, though.
Doorway, does that mean not a door?
I don't know. I don't know if those are openings or if there is an actual door that can close.
I'm looking back.
I'm guessing something can close over that large. That's probably French doors.
It says has two openings to the rest of the house. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are not door. Yeah, because the big one definitely. I mean, I didn't know what that was.
But not necessarily. I mean, I would guess that's French doors, but not necessarily. It could just be a big old opening.
It's just kind of hard because I want to say actually move the sub to the back of the room near you, because then it's more likely to give you that tactile sensation.
Could be localizable
near
though.
Field. Well, I mean, depends on what speaker she goes with. The NHTs, yeah, for sure. Impression series, they don't dig down that low either, but you're still about 80 hertz. So you can roll them over. You can cross them over at 80 hertz. So I mean, if she's sitting that far away and we put it in the back right corner, it's going to shake the couch. I mean, it's worth a try.
It's worth a try. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, overall, I don't see a way to like completely rearrange this room in a way that makes sense. Where your seat is, it pretty much needs to be on that side of the room. Where the TV is, it pretty much needs to be on that side of the room. But yeah, we agree with if you can move that seat away from the back wall a little bit, that'll help you. That'll be nice. You could certainly put some thick curtains behind you that, we'd love something even more absorptive, but thick curtains over that window would totally give you something to not have quite as much echo directly off of that back surface.
Absorption on that right wall would be nice, so that your right front speaker is, the first reflection point is being caught by whatever that.
Yeah, because if that opening is just an opening on the left, then you definitely want absorption on the right. Those would be the main things.
Yeah, I mean, thick carpet, plush furniture. I mean, we don't know what's in here. There could be bookshelves or something. So yeah. That's it. Let us know, Tara, how it works out for you. We'd love to hear back from you. Justin Not Bieber. This comes from Facebook. He's got some updates. All right. I didn't realize we were updating his now. For his living room system with the TV over the fireplace, as a reminder, he's downsizing from EMP Tech Impression Series towers to on-wall speakers. He got the Golden Ear Supersats. Anyways, and he hated them. Yeah. He temporarily used some EMP Tech E3B speakers that he already owned, and he found them passable. He reordered the Martin Logan Motion 4 bookshelf speakers, and he thinks they are a huge upgrade. He loves their crisp, clear sound, excellent imaging, though they are bigger than expected, still wall-mountable, though. Now, those are a lot more expensive than anything else that we're looking at here, right?
Yes.
Is that true?
Well, I mean, the Supersats aren't cheap, so it's not a huge change.
Not unexpected about that, though. Be honest with you, the Golden Ear Supersats and anything from Golden Ear, it has a sound. They want to have a sound. They have a sound, and that's what they're going for. And if you don't like it, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make them bad speakers. It just means that you guys don't agree. It's fine. Shake hands and go your own way. I'm not surprised that you found the Martin Logan Motion 4s an improvement over the EMP Techs, which are a budget speaker. So yeah, that's not surprising at all. So for his desktop 2-channel music listening setup, he got the Emotiva PT100 preamp and A300 2-channel amplifier, and he's using them with the Echo Dot and the U-Turn Audio Orbit custom turntable. Okay, so this is vinyl. And I did not see how much this thing cost, but it is
not too bad.
Awfully pretty.
Yeah.
It is awfully pretty, this little turntable, or the U-Turn Audio. It's $179. And it comes in black or green or blue or white or red or tan or wood grain. I like the wood grain. I've got to be honest with you.
And then, as the name suggests, you can customize it, of course, for extra cost. But that's the base price.
Yeah. So the base price is $179. The wood grain is an extra $90. In fact, so is the tan. Oh, is that also a wood grain? Oh, it's a light wood grain.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the colors are all $179. Anywho, so anyways, he owns about 100 vinyl records, and he has a memory of them sounding pretty good, albeit in a completely different setup, of course. But with his 2-channel setup, he's compared some of his vinyl records to the same song streaming via the Echo Dot. The Echo Dot. And the vinyl sounded duller and noisier to him. Is he just being forced to be honest and come to terms with vinyl sounding inferior? Or is there something he could do to drastically improve the sound of his vinyl records? His last vinyl setup was a few years ago, and he's listened to many different systems since then. So his memory of how vinyl used to sound, is that just playing tricks on him? He'd like to some help sorting through this. All right. Now, before I get into all the things I'm going to say about vinyl, let's actually answer the question. Could you do something to improve the sound of your vinyl? Chances are the answer is no, and that's because every time you play a record, it degrades slightly. You're running a needle along a groove. A needle is sharp. The groove is made of vinyl, and it is, there's some damage being done. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. This is a physical thing that happens. You cannot stop it from happening. What can you do? The only thing I've ever seen to address stuff like this is some people own these essentially washers for their vinyl. You put the record into what looks like a big turntable with like a waterproof top. It rinses it, it dries it, and it spits it back out after it's done with, it as clean as it's gonna be. Will this help you in your search to reclaim the sound that you remember before? I'm gonna say no. Could it help? Maybe. I don't know. The reality is that this allure, this mystique around vinyl is exactly what you're talking about. It's memory. It's people remembering how great it sounded, how great they felt when they listened to it, probably how high they were when they were listening to it too, and everything else. And then they say, I'm going to play this record and I'm going to have that same feeling. And they're like, but it's all kind of scratchy and noisy, and it doesn't sound as good as what I heard streaming. Probably
and it has
low
all
quality
the
MP3s.
high frequency roll off that there is in vinyl. There is high frequency roll off in there.
I mean, and not only that, people don't really realize this, but you could not put all the bass into a vinyl recording that you wanted to, because it would knock the needle out of the groove. So what they did is they used sort of basically an algorithm, which transforms what is being played, and said, okay, well, if you get this note, in this way or whatever, it transforms it so that you get more bass out of it. It's almost like a DSP, like an early version of a DSP, but it was sort of agreed upon. Like, this is one way we transfer, this is another way we transfer, another way we transfer.
RIAA curve that's used.
That's right.
Which the Emotiva is applying, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a thing that you're experiencing, which let's just chalk it up to rose-colored glasses about our past. We look back on these times and think of how great they were, and the reality is, it's just records, and they kind of sucked.
Well, to me, the biggest difference here is you've now got a near field setup. It's a desktop setup. Too. You're sitting really close to your speakers. Yep. So all of that background noise, every little pop and click that's going to be in the vinyl, you're hearing that like you probably didn't hear in the previous setup. Like, my dad has a ton of vinyl, so of course, I mean, he's not going to rebuy everything. That doesn't make sense. But he's sitting all the way across the living room from some very nice speakers, and vinyl sounds really nice in that setup. But if I got really up close to his speakers, I'm like, I'm hearing all the flaws. You can't avoid it when you're that close to the speaker, when you're near field like that. You can't avoid all the flaw that's there. There is that background hiss that's always there. And when you're sitting near field like this, it's that much more noticeable. That's been my experience anyway. So honestly, I wouldn't say like throw out your 100 vinyl records. It's just I don't like listening to vinyl near field. It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, you end up in the same situation if you decide to listen to it loud, right?
Well,
I mean, even if you're
not
far
really,
field,
because you don't get the background noise as much when it's really loud and you're far away. That gets masked.
You're talking about the actual physical noise that's coming off of the record, not as it spins around.
When you put the needle down and nothing's playing yet, just the
yeah.
That's there. When you're sitting near field like that, you can't avoid hearing that.
Yeah. I have a feeling he's at this. I mean, that could be it. Sit further away from your desk.
Yeah.
How's that going to work out for you? Let me know. He bought the Hi-Fi Man HE400 headphones, and he thought they sounded awesome. Now, these are planar magnetic, right?
They are.
Am I right about that? But he ended up returning them because he discovered he wants more sound isolations, and the HE400 leaks sound like crazy. He said they could basically be used as speakers.
Yep.
They are open back, and they, yeah.
Yep.
This is an issue with those. So with the same $750 budget restriction, he's now hoping to find a pair of closed-back headphones with similar sound qualities, considering the Oppo PM3s, the Fostex FTHX00, whatever, dude. Anyways, these speakers, the Audi's EL8s and the V-Moto CF2s. Any thoughts or recommendations for those, or something that he hasn't considered?
I got my vote out of those. But.
Yeah. I would probably go for the Audis based on that, but I'm wearing the Oppo PM3s. Mm-hmm. They're very good. They are not as big and as comfortable as some of these. These are meant to be on-ear speakers. They do go around my ear, so I'm a little bit more comfortable with them.
They wouldn't go around mine.
They would not go around Rob's, and
I folded my ears.
I feel fairly okay with them for like a couple of hours, but they're not like the super comfortable headphones that I would like for hours of music listening. If you said I'm going to go with the Oppos, I'd be like, great, you're going to love them because they are very, very good. But I'm guessing the Audis might be a little bit better. I don't have much faith that the V Motos are going to sound fantastic. I don't know. I have not heard those.
Great build quality, but not
linear
sound.
yeah. They are not going for linear. He's very much into house music. We talked to the guy in the podcast. He's very much into house music and DJ and stuff like that. And that, he has a certain sound he likes, and he wants his headphones to sound that way, and that's great. They are bullet proof. The man does not believe in plastic. They're like all metal. Like you could use them to block bullets. I don't know anything about those Fostech speaker headphones. So the PM3s or the Audis ones are the two I would look at.
Yeah, my vote was going to the Audis EL8s as well. I was a little surprised to hear Tom say them first, but I'm in agreement with that. Those are the ones I would go for in this price class for a sealed planar magnetic headphone that can give you some. It's not the same sound quality as the HE400s. They're going to sound a bit different, but a similar type of sound quality within this price range with a closed back design. So
so the Audis ones are bigger too, right? Aren't they bigger?
They're a full circumaural.
And that's really, I think that's really what I was thinking, was that I think he's going to be disappointed with the size of these headphones.
Yeah,
you can look on the video, go look on the video what they look like, because they are not huge. I mean, you think the big ones, and I can actually go get the other ones because I've got the PM2s. They don't make those anymore. The PM2s would be the perfect solution, but they are open back as well, but I don't think they leak noise as bad as the ones that you were talking about. But the EL8s, aren't they open back? No,
there's two versions. There's an open back version and a closed back version. So
okay,
closed back version.
Closed back version. I didn't know that. All right. So are there any recommendations for something that has Sennheiser? High-end Sennheisers would be. I don't know that you're going to be able to get anything that sounds quite as good as a planar magnetic, but if you're going to get it from somebody, the high-end Sennheisers, $750. I'm trying to think of how far up they're
going to be the open back style from Sennheiser up at that price range. That's what they do. So
anyways, well, I like the sound quality of Hi-Fi Man HE400s and Emotiva PT100 headphone output didn't drive them loud enough or with low enough to fully satisfy Justin. Since the closed back planar magnetic headphones are very much a possibility, he'd like a suggestion for an external headphone amp under $500 that can, for certain, power any headphone he might choose. Now, if you go with the Oppos, you will not need that. Okay?
And you shouldn't need them with the Audis EL8s either. They're quite sensitive.
I use these things with my phone. And I don't turn. I mean, I turn the volume very close to as high as the phone volume will go, but it is loud. It is plenty loud. And
that PT100 doesn't have a tremendously powerful headphone amp in it, so fair enough.
So I know I can see based on these notes here that Rob has a recommendation that I'm not going to read. So
I know it's your favorite company name. It's SCHIIT Sheet Audio. And yes, they do make a pun out of that. But yeah, they got some nice. And the thing was, I remember Justin asking about an amplifier. This was for speakers originally, but an amplifier with tubes. Well, you could go for one of the models that has tubes from Sheet Audio. They got some with tubes. So the Lyre would be an expensive, too expensive in my opinion, choice. But if you want tubes, then that's the one to go for, because they have a less expensive model with tubes below that, but it's not really meant to drive anything other than very high impedance headphones. So the Lyre would be one if you want tubes. Honestly, the one I would go for is their $99 Magni 2. That'll drive anything. It's totally fine. It's $100. It's really all you need to drive any headphones you would ever want. But I know that Justin likes the idea of tubes, so I'll throw the Lyre out there just for that reason.
There you go. I will never recommend that company. I'm sorry, guys. You have to start sending me some.
They make good headphone amps.
I'm sure they do. If they want me to talk about them, I will have to have a stack of their gear in my house before I'll even consider it. I'm sorry. You have a stupid name. I got a problem with that. I mean, I am not in middle school where I think stuff like that's funny anymore. Lastly, speakers. Justin says he likes to experiment, and the setup So the setup is 2.0 for music listening, and with a budget of $750, he likes to buy a pair, use them for a while, then swap them out for something else. So it's all about variety and experience. So he's been in his 2.0 setup, he's been swapping out various speakers, and he wanted to let us know what he thought of the different speakers. So the Wharfdale Denton, which he felt were enjoyable all around, but seemed a bit flat and lifeless, especially with cellos. I don't know what they've got against cello, but apparently over Wharfdale.
It's the way they're EQ'd for whatever reason.
The Axiom M22s, he says they have a sizzle in the high end, but he liked them a lot. And I've had those speakers, and I can see exactly why he would say those things, and I would agree with them. The Golden Ear Aeon 3, which he thought was nothing special. The MP Tech Towers, which so far are his favorite by far, or so far.
Yeah.
The Ascend CMT 340 SEs he felt were great, but he slightly preferred the Axioms over the Ascend.
Fair enough.
Interesting. Totem Dreamcatchers, he felt like they didn't play low enough. And the B&W and Klipsch, he didn't like any of their offerings, which, again, the ones that he liked tend to be, let me see here.
Pretty neutral,
right? He doesn't really like the Golden Ears, doesn't really like the Totems, doesn't really like the B&Ws or the Klipsch. Those are the ones that are having a sound. And it's not surprising that he doesn't like them as much. So he asked, what are some more options he could try? So maybe some lesser known, off the beaten path suggestions. And just so we know, he'd love to try Magnepans, but he's certain that his cat would destroy them. What? Aren't they like wire? Not wire, but aren't they like grills? Like metal grills?
No, I mean they're a sheet of mylar. That's what they are.
Thinking. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Martin
Logan Electrostats.
Yeah. Anyways, so what do we got for him? All right, so let's see here. Well, you all haven't even tried my speakers, so it's the Aperians.
You didn't try the Aperians yet.
So you can choose something from their line, and they have free return shipping, if I remember correctly. The other one that comes to my mind that I think we should look into is Dolly.
Yep.
I haven't heard you say anything about Dolly. Dolly would be a very good option for you. They've got a lot of good stuff out there. They got a lot of stuff that's not that great, but they have a lot of good stuff out there.
And I mean, if this is about experimenting and trying stuff out, yeah.
Sulk, too, might be an option for you. Sulk,
oh, sure.
Sulk Audio. They've had some quality issues over the years, but I really like the Song Towers that I had. Which I thought
those are over $750, but they have.
I know, options. But they have other options out there. So go look at Sulk Sound.
Yeah, I don't know how much any of my suggestions are off the beaten path. I mean, everything I would say. I mean, SVS, CAF, Focal maybe would be the least known amongst. But we mention them all the time. But Focal, like their Aria 905s, you can get them from Accessories for Less. Emotiva, their Air Motive T1 towers. I mean, you already tried EMP Tech towers, so towers aren't off the table.
Right,
so
sure.
You could give them a try. And then we already know you liked Axiom and Ascend, so you like that pretty neutral sound. Paradigm, PSB, they're going to have that Canadian sound. Energy as well, right? But none of those exactly off the beaten path.
I was going to say, if you've heard like Ascend and Aperian and Axiom speakers, you're going to listen to Paradigm and PSB and go, what? It sounds the same. I mean, it's going to be very little difference between these speakers. That's the problem. That's my big problem with the Canadian, quote unquote, Canadian sound, is that they end up all kind of sounding the same in the end.
So I would say maybe look at some British speakers, which would be like Mission and Lin, right?
Sure.
Maybe you already tried B&W, but Mission and Lin have their own sounds too. So something out of there. Maybe Focal, they're French.
Monitor audio.
Yeah, that'd be a good one too. Yeah. There you go. Whole bunch out there to try.
I'm trying. You know what you need to do is search for my name in like bookshelf speaker review and see what comes up. You're going to come up with some stuff because I know I've like Usher. I don't know if they still make speakers. Gene flat out destroyed a pair of their speakers.
Right.
Just drove them completely into the ground. But that might be an option. Their little bookshelf speaker I thought sounded pretty good before Gene blew it up.
I think we've.
What the RBH isn't on here at all, right?
Well,
he's already done
the
EMP Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our higher end ones. All right, that's a lot. Let us know how that works out for you.
Something out of there should be worth a try.
Oh yeah, we have to recommend Legacy Audio because if not, then right now.
Well, they don't have anything for $750 though.
I know,
not a thing.
You know, there's a person out there that's going to explode if we don't say it. He's right now exploding. Jonathan. I don't know which Jonathan this is. Anyways, Legacy Audio demoed their Wavelet automatic room correction device. It's $5,000 at Expona this year. They claim it is, quote, conceptually and operationally different than anything else, end quote, said everybody about everything they ever made ever, including the second person to invent the wheel. And it uses cloud processing to make corrections to the resonant sound energy as late as 40 milliseconds after the initial sound. It's meant for 2-channel, of course it is, and the setup process is supposed to be fairly simple. Just set a microphone 4 feet from each speaker's tweeter, and there will be 2 readings taken at each of the 2 microphone positions. The cloud server crunches the numbers, and the result is sent back to the wavelet. Jonathan wants to know why 4 feet from each tweeter. And if those are the only 2 microphone positions, how does it account for the rest of the room in your seating positions? Yeah, this is all kinds of dumb. That was my initial reaction when I read this. This is just audiophile nonsense. Now, what are they doing? They're not doing anything that hasn't been done before. They didn't reinvent this wheel. Like, oh, we're going to do it in the cloud. Yeah, that's because you don't want to put the components in the thing, and they're like, oh, some of these room correction systems you have to have a PhD in spatial dynamics in order to.
Well, if you're doing the Trinnov, that is a very involved microphone process with the Trinnov.
One system, every other system's like, okay, move the mic. Where? We don't care. Move it again. We don't care. We're done moving it. If you moved it once, you're good. We don't care. Could Odyssey be any easier to set up and use these days? It's so simple. The hardest thing is to get people to believe that pointing the microphone up is the right thing to do. Everybody else believes that you can't point it up. I cannot point it up. I gotta point it at the speakers. Which speaker? They're all playing, dummy. All right. So this is supposed to be way easier by having you set it 4 feet from the tweeter, which, come on, it's like, basically a meter, right? We're basically going for a meter away from the tweeter, and then another one on the other side, and it's gonna measure the room, and it's gonna measure your speaker somehow, and it's gonna do some parametric EQ or whatever it does, and it's gonna be done.
I'm fairly certain what's going on here is they're taking a direct measurement and a reverberant measurement. That's why it's two measurements.
Right? Yeah, they measure the room and they measure the speaker.
Yeah, they're getting the direct sound first, so it's going to be a gated measurement. It's only going to react within the first, I forget the math, but anyway, it's probably only going down to 250 hertz, and it's just getting the direct sound, and then they're shutting off the mic immediately to make sure they don't capture any of the reflections. And then the second one, they're leaving the microphone on longer to let those reflections come in, and then they're probably comparing the two and making EQ adjustments based on those to try and make the reverberant sound closer to the direct sound. I bet that's what they're doing. Which is why that would be why they're not taking a seated measurement, because they don't care about that. They're just saying, let's try to make the reverberant sound similar to the direct sound, right? I think that's what they're going for, which means it's very similar to what ELAC is doing, so I don't think it's completely unique. But anyway.
No. You're kidding me. You're kidding me. It's not unique, but he said it was substantively different or something. He said it was conceptually and operationally different than anything else, said the person who made it. So clearly he must not be lying. No, it's just it's just high end. It's literally, in probably most ways, I want to say every way, but it's probably not in every way, but it is just inferior to everything Odyssey is doing these days, pretty much. I mean, it's fine. It's gonna do something. It's just not gonna. I mean, is it worth $5,000? No,
right.
It's not worth $5,000. So, anyways, also Expona. I have a hard time saying that. Audioholics covered some of the more exotic speaker designs. Do I have to read all these things? Oh, I guess I do. The Sojourny Acoustics Miracoli is this. These speakers are $24,000 a pair.
Yep.
Claim 110 dB watt per meter sensitivity, meaning that a single watt can deliver full reference volume in most setups. Jonathan wants to know, what is the point of having that level of sensitivity? We can get a lot of clean watts from modern amplifiers at relatively low cost, so outside of an extremely large room. Is there any need for this level of efficiency? Yes, you need it when you have stupid amps that only put out 3 watts because they're tubes and stuff.
3 watts? Dear God, what are you using?
Like a
one watt. 1 watt. That's all we have. The first watt. It's the only watt.
It's the big one. That's the watt that we need. It's not the watt we deserve. It's the watt we need.
It is, my God, man. It's overkill.
Some of these high end amplifiers that are designed to the nth degree to eliminate one specific thing, whatever that thing is supposed to be, crosstalk or something like that. They will put out like almost nothing as far as power. So why do you need something that's this efficient? Because you have a stupid amp that you paid.
Yeah, this is an audiophile show, man. There are totally tube amps that maybe they struggle to put out 1 watt. So if that's the amp you're using, then you need speakers like this.
Yeah, and if you're not seeing the picture here, they are just basically horns. And you've seen this type of speaker before. The avant-garde speakers look like this too. They're just these big, massive horns because they can't put out a lot of power. So the horns are absolutely necessary for making that sound. The title Akira, well, you know your speakers go when you name it after a Japanese anime from the 80s. The title Akira is $219,000 a pair. $219,000 a pair. Outside of the price tag and their 13-karat diamond 5-inch mid-range drivers. 13 karat. The mid-range, shut up.
The mid-range driver is a 13-karat diamond. It's 5 inches in diameter.
So these guys also drew Jonathan's attention because of how they were raked back. Yeah, not the price, not the diamond, but the rake on the speakers. And you can see this in the picture too. And this is not an unusual design. The tilt seems pretty substantial. So what would be the reason for this design? They'll normally tell you time alignment.
That's the common thing, yeah.
That's normally what they'll tell you if you talk to them. What they're doing is they're putting the drivers, in a physical orientation so that the time alignment of the sound coming to you is adjusted based on the rake. What is the company that does this? It starts with a T all the time. What's it called? I could see the stupid speakers in my head too. I remember listening to them at a high-end place, and I thought they were crap. Anyways, there's a lot. I almost had it. There's a lot of speakers that do this. They have beautiful outriggers. You can see that on here, and it's not that the rake can't have an effect. I mean, it does have an effect. And it's not that it can't have a good effect, but I can't imagine that it's necessary in order to get the time alignment that you need on a speaker. So there you go. Yeah, am I going on? Or are you going to say something about those stupid speakers?
No, that's who's buying a $219,000 pair of speakers? So.
Dude, one guy buys that speaker, one or gal.
If they want to tilt him, they go. You know why they need to be time aligned this way? Because the crossover is going to be like a single inductor. It is.
We're going to sell those at BS Audio.
There's no way that they're going to put. They're not going to put components into their crossover that would ruin the sound. So you can't time align it any other way.
The Von Ultra 11 speakers. Schweikert. They're $295,000 a pair.
Yeah.
They are very tall. So he asks if that look is for more headroom. I mean, this is like the biggest. These things, because the Cat speakers look like this too.
Yeah.
There's these massive, massive speakers. If you're gonna spend, over $200,000. Well, this is almost $300,000 a pair. You want a big ass speaker. And that's what they're going to give you, a big old speaker. And these are kind of like a bowed shape too. They usually are, with the woofers on top and the bottom. It's funny. It's like almost the biggest Doppelio array thing.
It is, yeah. It's very symmetrical.
It's very
You could lie one on its side and have a center.
You sure could. For $150,000, they will gladly push one over for you.
Wall mounted, because they only
That's
look
right.
to be
It's
about,
wall mounted.
they look like they're about 4 feet deep as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think it is for headroom. Good call there,
yeah,
Jonathan.
that's right.
Headroom. I do like that they do have those. Those are acoustical treatments in that picture. Those little round things. They do absorb. They do absorb stuff. They're clearly optionally placed on the front wall, not behind the speakers at all. Not in a corner where they could actually absorb the bass. But whatever, as we go. Earl has a 10-year-old Denon AVR 3801 receiver that I'd like to upgrade to something with all the bells and whistles. 4K, HDR pass-through, HDCP 2.2, copy protection, blah, 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 DAP modes, all that. His budget is $1,000 to $3,000. Pretty much all the receivers out there are in your budget. So, good. He currently has his current Denon has 7-channel stereo listening mode. He often uses for music, and he whatever he buys to use this as well. But after looking at model specs for several brands, including Denon, Anthem, and Pioneer, don't look at Pioneer, no new models seem to have 7-channel stereo modes. Is this a dead feature? And 7-channel stereo, not what receiver should he buy? Whatever it is, he'd like to continue using B&K reference 200.3 3-channel amplifier to power his front 3 speakers. Okay. Really? 7-channel stereo's dead? That's not on my receiver? I feel like it's on my receiver. I feel like I've seen that.
So the Denon and Marantzes have a mode called multi-channel stereo.
What's wrong with that?
Well, it's not quite 7-channel stereo in that it doesn't just downmix everything to 2-channel and then replicate that sound through everything. They are spreading the sound around, but it's not identical sound from each speaker. It's making sound from stereo sources come out of all 7 or 11 speakers, but it's not identical sound. And I think he's going for identical sound. Well, there is a brand that's still doing that. It's Yamaha. And Yamaha's top-end receivers are great. So I have no problem recommending to you, say, an RX-A 3060 or the 3070, which is coming out very shortly. You can pre-order it, in fact. $2,000 for the 3070, so it's right in the middle of your $1,000 to $3,000 budget.
And if you're going to get a Yamaha, you want to get the RSC with all the stuff, all the bells and whistles. And these high-end receivers from Yamaha are going to have that. And that's a room correction system that works very, very well.
Yeah, the YPOW with the RSC and the 3D angle measurement and everything. So it has 9 amplifiers built in. So your whole thing of wanting to use your 3-channel amplifier to power your left, center, right, you can still do that. The Yamaha gives you the option. It's similar to what we talked to last week. You have to specify one pair of speakers that must be powered externally. Those can be your front, left, right speakers in the case of the Yamaha. They're 3000 series flagship receivers. So yeah, I'd point you at one of their RX-A 3060 or 3070. The 3070 gives you Dolby Vision pass-through, so you might want to get that.
That's all the bells and whistles that we have now.
That is all the bells and whistles. It's a great receiver. It's in your budget. And, well, actually, I should clarify, it does not have a 7-channel stereo listening mode. It has a 9 or 11-channel stereo listening mode because...
Sacrilege!
Now that's how many speakers you have. But it's the same. They even describe it. They say down mixes everything to 2-channel, then replicates that sound out of all your speakers. It's exactly what you want.
But if you decide that's not what you want, pretty much any high-end Marantz or Denon.
Yeah, you can use the multi-channel stereo. It's not exactly the same as what you have right now, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah. Caesar on Facebook. Why is Timbre pronounced timbre? Because it's dumb. English language is dumb.
Because it's French. It's French.
Dumb. That's dumb.
It is. I mean, I've heard people say timber, and that's fine.
I've said it.
Say timber.
I was corrected. I corrected, and I've been corrected.
It's supposed to be around timbre. It's French. That's why.
Stupid. Everything should be spelled phonetically, and that's the last thing I'm going to say about that. Jefferson. A few months ago, Jefferson started hearing what he would describe as static pops coming from his speakers on startup of system. Recently, the pops have been getting louder and happening more frequently, so much so that he's starting to worry about them damaging his equipment. Also, occasionally, the receiver would lose the video signal of the startup source, showing snow instead. Sometimes it relocks onto the video signal, sometimes not, and he has to switch inputs and switch it back to get a signal lock. This has been happening more and more lately along with the pops. Boy, this sounds like a short someplace to me, but I'm going to go on. He thinks he may have narrowed it down to the motor on his projector screen causing the pops. He unplugged the trigger cable connecting the screen to the projector and just used the remote to lower the screen below powering on the preamp in the projector, and no pops and no losing video. If he powers on the preamp and the projector and waits, there are no pops. But if he then lowers the screens, the pop and the snow return. So what else can he test, and what can he do for a more permanent solution? I'm telling you, man, I am no electrical engineer guy. So whenever stuff like this happens, I sacrificing goat and waving like feathered cart. So I really don't know, but it sounds like you got something wrong with that motor, and when it draws power, it is shorting something out, which is sending a signal back through to your receiver and everything else in your system. I want to know what he's got this thing plugged into, and if we could do some sort of surge protection or line
isolation, really. Isolation. I mean, this sounds a heck of a lot like when someone turns a vacuum cleaner on, right? You ever had that?
Yeah.
Which, again, a noisy motor. That's what it is. I think you have absolutely nailed the culprit. It's got to be that motor from everything that you described, and it makes sense that a motor is doing. It's putting all kinds of EM interference into your power line that is getting into the rest of your equipment. And it's causing these problems. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it doesn't sound like it was doing this when it was brand new, because this is, a relatively new problem and it's getting worse. Simply cleaning the motor in that screen could do something, because over time it just gets gunked up.
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
it just gets gunked up.
Which would cause it to draw more power, which could be affecting this. So pull down screen?
Yeah. Pull down screen. Or if it has remote control, you could get a Harmony and set it up to make sure that it always lowers the screen first before powering everything else on when you activate an activity.
Put like a 3-second delay or something like that, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is.
So if you can do it remote, you can just make the activity always make sure to lower the screen first. But honestly, I would clean and service that motor, because it shouldn't.
Or call the company and replace and ask them if you could get a replacement or a fix or something like that.
But it totally makes sense that it is the motor. That like I say, it's just like a vacuum cleaner or a hair dryer or something.
Ted, this comes from Facebook. Ted asks, "What do we think of the Sub Pack?" I guess we're seeing an image here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Sub Pack, I looked it up. It's sort of like a tactile transducer for your body. Yep. So you wear it like a vest, or there's an option where you connect it to your chair and you sit on like an office chair. And the idea here is that the base then comes through your body, I guess. I mean, it's like it shakes you.
It's a tactile transducer that you wear or put directly onto the back of your seat.
What do I think of it? I think it's strangely awesome, and I want to try it like really bad. And I would like. I know Ted was probably thinking, "Oh, we're going to tear this up." I think we have had more than one person recently who we could have recommended this to on our podcast. People who are listening to headphones, they want that. They were like, "How can I hook up my subwoofer so that I can feel the bass but not hear the bass?" I'm like, "You could wear the bass, dude. You could wear the bass."
Yeah, and they have a version that's got a lithium-ion rechargeable battery, lasts about 6 hours, so you can even take it portably.
Yeah. I don't hate this idea. I think this is very interesting, and I would like to know how well it works.
Yeah, the wearable version that you wear like a backpack and has the rechargeable battery, $350, which is, I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not outlandishly expensive.
No.
That's doable. $300 for the one that sits on your seat that you can't wear. But I mean, $350 for something like this, I'm okay with. I mean, if you want a tactile transducer, then this is a way to make it a very personalized tactile transducer. I'm quite okay with this idea. I think it's kind of cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
Mark, this might be our last question here. We'll see here. Mark, a few years ago, Mark was under the impression that with projectors, higher lumens meant a better picture. This led him to spend a lot of money on the NEC P45 451X. That claims to put out 4,500 lumens. Lately, though, he's been doing some research, and realized that not only did he buy a business class projector, which he could have known that by the sound that was coming out of it, but that the 1080p signal he's been viewing from his PS3 might not be true 1080p. Now, it's just understanding the NEC has a native resolution of 1024 by 768, which is XGA. After reading around a different home theater forums, it sounds like the 1080p signal from the PS3 is being scaled rather than displayed natively. He's feeling pretty ashamed knowing what he does now, but he wonders, is it worth it to sell the NEC and go with something like an Epson 3100? He's currently projecting onto a 120-inch Elite screen from 14 feet away, and his theater has no ambient light. Well, if you had no ambient light, you certainly didn't need all those lumens to begin with. But, so basically, yes, the native resolution is 1024 by 768. Your 1080p was getting scaled.
Yep.
I mean, that's just
not only that, you must have been seeing black bars on top and bottom this whole time, because that's a 4:3 aspect ratio. And what's coming out of your PS3 is going to be 16:9.
So what he probably did was blow it up, right? He would
Maybe.
have to blow it up because it would be 16:9.
Or he's
So
just
he
been
would
seeing,
No, I would think he would blow it up. He would blow it up so that it would fit the 16:9.
From the specs I was reading, it doesn't even accept a 1080p signal. It accepts 1080i or 720p.
So you might not, yeah.
Sure, he was
so
getting 1080p out of there.
Yeah, all right. First of all, don't feel ashamed.
Okay, absolutely not.
Do not think that this is common. This sort of thing happens in one way or another to every single one of us, where we get an idea in our head of what we want and what we think is important. We buy something, and a year or 2 or 5 or 10 years later, we go, "Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I thought that was important."
And you've been using it this whole time, so it's not like it's been broken on you, like unusable. It's been fine. I want to warn you, any projector you get from now on is going to look a lot dimmer than 4500 lumen business class projector. But,
well, I mean, unless you properly calibrated it, in which case
true.
Maybe it should look fairly similar. Should you go with something like a real 1080p projector? I want 14 feet away. What's that field of view like, Rob?
From 120 inches? Let me figure that out while you talk.
So my thought here was, first of all, I don't think there's anything that we could say that would not make you want to buy a new projector. At this point, I think you are already on the path. In fact, you may have already bought one, and this is all formalities at this point. And that would be perfectly okay. You have not been seeing true 1080p. Are you going to see a massive difference between what you saw before and what you're seeing now? Could be. And the reason that it could be is we've got some scaling going on. You may have been getting 1080i out of this thing, which means that deinterlacing may have been happening inside your projector, which a business class projector, generally speaking, doesn't do a very good job with. You may have been getting 720p, but then that even had to be scaled for the inside your projector to come out. Yep. There could be all sorts of weirdness going on. You may see a massive difference. You may see very little difference.
Mainly, though, it's going to be black levels in contrast. You can have so much deeper black levels and higher contrast in a home theater projector than what you've been seeing. That's going to be a big difference.
Yeah, and I would venture to guess that you're probably going to be seeing less artifacting just in general.
And probably more accurate colors, too.
You may not have even realized this kind of stuff that was going on. Like when I was reviewing the 3700 from Epson in the 3D mode, right? The Moray started showing up. I hadn't seen Moray. I haven't seen Moray in a real thing in forever. The last time I saw Moray, it was the signal. You know what I mean? It came from Netflix that way because I knew the projector wasn't doing it. I knew my system wasn't doing it. So it was coming from Netflix that way. That was the last time I saw Moray, and it popped up here. You may be seeing, especially I'm thinking in the dark levels, like macro blocking and all this sort of splotchiness in the dark levels. That's going to go away. Is your new picture going to look dimmer? Rob's probably right, and the answer is going to be yes. Will it be more accurate? Will the colors be more right? Will there be less artifacting and weirdness? Will you be seeing 1-for-1 pixel mapping? Yes, and yes.
And to me, it's almost all about the black levels, too.
Yeah.
Once you see a nice, deep black level, you're like, oh, that's
so what's the field of view here?
About 35 degrees.
Yeah, so you're not sitting super duper close to this thing, and 35 degrees is
that's fine.
Is perfectly good. So I would say yes, that you should go with the 1080p. I don't. I think that more often, like what Rob's saying with the black levels and with what I'm worried about with some of the artifacting, I think that's where you're going to see the improvements. The actual resolution may not be that big of a that massive change, but you're going to see some pretty big differences in a lot of these other aspects.
Now, he was mentioning the Epson 3100. Nice projector, what I would call like a living room projector, right? It's quite bright. The black levels aren't.
So he hasn't quite let go of the lumens thing yet. He's still
a little bit, but I'm thinking like if you're gonna do this, then I want you to like really see what a home, because he's got the no ambient light situation too, which means he could have really nice black levels if he gets a projector that can do that. I want to try. It's more money. That's the problem. But I want to try and steer you towards the Epson 5030 UB. So right now they're selling the 5040 UB. That's the one that can do Wobble K and HDR and that, but that's $2,500 or $2,700, and that's more than double the price of the 3100. Right. The 5030 UB is the model from a couple of years ago now that the 5040 is replacing. You can find them for about $1,750, $1,800. It's more expensive than the 3100, but that UB stands for ultra black. And it's still a bright projector. It's not 4,500 lumens. It's about 2,500 lumens. But if you're going to do this, I want you to like really see the huge benefit of the black levels and the contrast. And a 5030 UB would absolutely do that for you. There'd be no question upon seeing it that you got something that your NEC just absolutely was not doing. So it's always tough when I'm asking you to spend more money. But I'm like, if you're going to do it, really do it right. That's my feeling. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I think you should really go for don't stop looking at lumens. Don't worry about brightness. You are in a dark room. You do not have to worry about how bright things are. Okay? Yeah. You need to worry about how black things are.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're going to be able to know this difference of.
Ultra black.
Ultra black. I feel like that should be a Zoolander should be saying that. Ultra black. I don't know how he does it with his face. All right. Mahi. We're going to do this one. This is quick, and we might do the next
Mahi
one
and Niels are both very quick, so I think we can do that when we're done.
Mahi is contemplating between 3 identical Ascend Acoustics Sierra towers versus 2 towers in the Sierra Horizon Center to go behind his acoustically transparent projector screen. Which option is best?
3 towers.
The 3 towers, yes. Going on. Do we... okay, well... Okay, there is nothing wrong with the center, but the center, by definition, is a capitulation to placement. We have to place something on our sides. We will try to make something that sounds like the towers. Why buy something that's trying to sound like a tower when you can buy another tower that will actually sound exactly like a tower, because it is a tower? That is why you go with the 3 identical speakers. Perfectly timbre matched, and
that's right. The left to right dispersion identical across all 3 of your speakers. The horizontal one slightly different, very slightly different horizontal dispersion because it's wider. It has a wider baffle. The tower identical.
Neil has a 60-inch LG PB 6600 plasma TV, which seems to have some serious overscan problems here, or some serious overscan. Anyways, overscan, for so that you know, it's like, here's your normal image is, however many pixels this is, then the TV will sort of zoom in a little bit to knock off a couple of pixels on the outside, just in case those pixels are weird and not conforming. Sometimes it's because there's an audio track that you can see that will be visible if you don't enable overscan. It's generally a feature that is
it's like a throwback to the CRT days.
It really is. I really don't know why it's still around, but apparently it was. So anyways, it's particularly noticeable in games with text getting cut off at the edges, like the map in Forza. I guess
Forza.
There's no T.
I know, but in Italian, when there's 2 consonants and one of them is a Z, you get a, like pizza, you get the ts sound.
Forza. Anyways, it's a racing game. So he's checked all the video settings and found no way to adjust the overscan, which he's able to do on his Panasonic plasma, but not the LG. So is he missing something? Is there a way to modify the overscan settings without going into a service menu? So I looked into this a little bit, and I know that he tried going into like aspect ratio and then just scan or something like that, and that didn't work for him.
Which normally does, we have to say. I mean, you did the right thing, Neil. Normally that is what you're supposed to select, is just scan or 1:1 or pixel 4 pixel, whatever they call it. But just scan is usually the name for this.
I have seen people with a similar but not exactly the same TV saying that worked. But for those that it didn't work for, they changed the input name of whatever input you're using from HDMI 1 or whatever it is to PC.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the input name to PC, and then the TV defaults into 1:1 pixel mapping.
Yeah.
Is that not the stupidest thing you've ever heard? Welcome to my life, dude. This is the sort of stuff I come across all the time.
Yep.
But I think it will work. Change the input name to PC.
That's right. Yeah, you want to put the input into the PC mode. You change the name to it, or if it has this just the various settings for either video or PC, set it to PC. Now, he was saying that where it bugs him the most is games, and that's good news because very often a PC input is looking for an RGB signal.
Right.
And your video game systems, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and even the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, they can be set to output RGB instead of what is called YCBCR, which is the normal video signal standard.
Right.
So if you set your video game system to output RGB, you make sure that your LG Plasma, the HDMI input that you're using for that game system, is set to the PC mode, or you have renamed it PC, should work. That's... Write us back and let us know, because if it doesn't work, then you're going to have to go into a service menu.
Because if that does not work, I don't know that we can help you. Yeah, the service menu thing is where people start like
damaging things.
Things. That's right. Write
but
everything down before you.
By all accounts, from everything we can find online, that is the correct of it. That if you use a PC signal, then it should work.
Yeah. Well, maybe you try that. All right. So Mark, who's got a whole bunch of questions here and images and very good-looking speakers, and Nathan. Organ, I guess, and May. Is that? Oh, and Michael. I'm sorry, that's a May. That's the date. Michael, who's got a whole bunch of questions. What does that say? Aqua? No, Aquin?
I think it's Akun. It's Akun. I'm not sure.
From Indonesia. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. I love Indonesia. It's Malaysia, Indonesia, that whole area. Their food is so amazing. I'm so hungry right now. All right, we'll get you guys and or gals next week. We want to thank our listeners of the week, Daniel, William, and Mark, for going to www.avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and leaving us a donation to help support the podcast. We thank you, Daniel, Mark, and William.
Yeah, Daniel, William, Mark, thank you all so much for those donations.
The first time, did I say Daniel, William, and Link? Did I say that? Is that
no,
what came
you said Mark
mouth?
Every time.
Did I?
That's what I heard.
I'm very tired. All right. This is AVRant. Get your questions answered next week or any week on this podcast. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You can leave us a comment at www.avrant.com. Facebook.com/avrantpodcast. YouTube.com/c/avrant. And you can contact us directly and all of that stuff. Listen to the beginning of the podcast for all that. For AVRant,
Austin? You know how to do Austin?
I can't do Austin every time.
I'm
running out of things.
Everything.
I know, but I can't read the list. The list is very unreadable. Austin, our producer, you can contact him at Austin TEN Pond. He is got his own podcast, the We Watch Movies podcast, solely and completely about the political unrest in Indonesia.
Of course it is.
Is there political unrest in Indonesia? I don't know if that's.
I don't know. I mean, everybody's got some. I
feel like there's some unrest. They have
Everybody's got some. Does anybody have a completely, perfectly functioning government with no unrest?
No unrest.
Antarctica? Are they arguing?
I feel like there probably are. There's probably people.
Well, I'm sure they are. I mean, everything's melting, so yeah, they gotta have some issues going on.
You know what I found out? This is true. One of the biggest dangers in Antarctica is fire.
Mm-hmm.
This is true. because if your stuff catches on fire, you are totally screwed. There's like no liquid water. It's nothing but ice. And if you burn down all your stuff, you got no stuff. Nobody can get to you. You're going to die in Antarctica because of now, the fire won't kill you necessarily, but the fire totally killed you. How much of an ironic death is that?
Too bad Austin doesn't talk about that on We Watch Movies.
You should talk about that. Who cares about Indonesian political unrest? That's a terrible topic. Fires in Antarctica. That's your deal. That's your bag. Change your podcast. Austin. Fuck.
Right.
Heart to heart. For AVRant, this is Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.